You are listening to TMBDOS. They must be destroyed on sight. The following podcast may contain adult language, conversations surrounding adult situations that may not be suitable for younger listeners, as well as spoilers for the films discussed on this podcast. You have been warned. Now, come on in.
They must be destroyed on sight.
All right, we're back. It is They Must Be Destroyed on Sight, episode 108, motherfuckers. Full in the swing of November. We've got some pretty impressive films to talk about in November, so we're starting this off here. I'm your host, Lee Russell, and I'm joined by my co-host, the Wrath of God himself, Paul Romali. How you doing, sir?
Hello, good sir. Hello. If I want the whores in the streets to die, they will die.
They will die. They'll fall from the trees. Yeah.
Yep. Onto my dick, baby. That's right.
Yeah. So we're going to be talking about Aguirre, The Wrath of God from 1972. But before we get to that, we'll get to a little bit of house cleaning here first. We just have two really quick comments from YouTube versions of our They Must Be Destroyed on Sight episodes. Someone called Gerbil Flurp, great name, on our episode about the conversation and night moves said, "Nice discussion on night moves, guys." Well, there you go. Thank you very much.
Gerbil Flurp. Is that kind of like when she's trying to tell you she loves it after a big mouthful of cum or something like that?
That sounds like the sound that would be made, would it not?
Gerbil Flurp. Oh, love it. Hot.
And Eric Nelson commented on our episode about Violent City, said, Violent City, very underrated movie, made before Bronson and Telly Savalas became household names. Oh, and that delicious score. Yes, indeed. Great film, great performances. The score from that film is one of my all-time favorites. I have it on my fucking MP3 player all the time. So Paul, is there anything you've watched in the last little while, or anything you purchased that you want to talk about?
I just got this massive box set. I was at Walmart and saw it, and it has basically all the classic horror movie people, the big names, it's just another movie set with same rehash idea of basically all those big boxes for $1.
Right.
Those, But I just wetted my whistle last night with The House on Haunted Hill and The Last Man on Earth again, which is Last Man on Earth is still an amazing film. Oh,
yeah. I mean, you can't beat Vincent Price in that film.
Yeah, and then I got this massive Toho collection Godzilla box set that was like $80.
Nice.
I don't know why I'm doing this, but this is happening.
Well, I think we should do some fucking like Godzilla shit at some point on the podcast. So it'll be good stuff to have in your library for future episodes.
Absolutely. Not 1999. We don't talk
about
that.
Or 8 or 9, whatever, whenever the fuck that Brendan.
I think it was 1999. Yeah, it was. Yeah. It was,
that Brendan Fraser one, yeah, no one wants
Matthew. It was a Matthew Broderick one.
Matthew Broderick, yeah.
It wasn't Encino Man. It was Ferris Bueller.
They're both kind of the same to me.
I like those original films.
The funny thing I think about now is that the Japanese incorporated the Godzilla from the Matthew Broderick film
in Final Wars or whatever.
Yeah,
yeah.
They brought it back and had its ass kicked.
Damn right,
like a motherfucker. Quickly.
What did you expect from a big iguana?
Yeah. That was awesome. The real Godzilla kicked its fucking ass.
Yeah, I like it.
Absolutely fucking beautiful. For me, the only thing I've really watched of note to talk about is there's this Ethan Hawke film that came out recently. I don't even know it's released. I just saw it on fucking Putlocker, so I watched it. But it's called 24 Hours to Live. It's kind of an action movie with a kind of a slightly sci-fi bent. It's basically Ethan Hawke's this piece of shit fucking hitman who fails in his latest job, and is killed, but he's brought back to life by the company that employs him through like basically sci-fi drugs that revive his body for 24 hours. And it's handy too, because you get that he's alive for 24 hours because there's actually a clock implanted into his wrist telling him how long he has left. So very convenient.
They couldn't just give him a watch. You just happen to have a clock.
Well, here's the funny thing. It's like his employers never gave a fuck whether he lived or died, and there was no reason for them to actually implant the clock into his wrist, because all they wanted to do was revive him and get some information from him, and then after that they were going to kill him anyway. Right. So it's just a really stupid plot device. At the same time, it's actually pretty entertaining. It's a competent action film, a lot of great action scenes, a lot of mercenaries just being killed by Ethan Hawke. Ethan Hawke looks like a cross between Nick Nolte and Tom Cruise at this point. Like, the way he's aging, I almost thought he was Nick Nolte in some scenes, you know?
God, Jesus.
Jesus.
Goddamn clock. God.
Like, it's that close. It's that close for him at this point. But, it was a lot of fun. It was surprisingly pretty good. It just has this weird kind of, like, little sci-fi bent into it that made it entertaining, so...
When you first started talking about it, it just reminded me of Dead Heat with Joe Piscopo.
Yeah, it's kind of like that in some ways. I would agree. Yeah.
Howdy, folks. Like blood, violence, freaks, and nature.
You come to the right place. My name is Gary, and I'm your guide to Cinema Beef Podcast. Every episode, we not only deliver film reviews, we also dismantle some of your favorite and most hated films. Sometimes for the better and sometimes for the worse.
Hey, you shut your face! If we want to hear you talk, I will shove my arm up your ass and work your mouth like a puppet.
Alright, calm down. Every show I hope to have a new co-host, podcasters and listeners alike. That's right, I'm talking to you people. I take all comers.
You're sluts.
That's not very nice. The only rules, well, let's ask the best cooler in the business.
All you have to do is follow 3 simple rules. 1. Never underestimate your opponent. Expect the unexpected. 2. Take it outside. Never start anything inside the bar unless it's absolutely necessary. And 3, be nice.
So join the insanity and please vent your frustrations. I'm available on TalkShoe, iTunes, and Stitcher Smart Radio. And remember, here at the Cinema Beef Podcast, if you got beef, I've got the grinder.
Badasses, Boobs, and Body Counts is a weekly podcast that discusses all things grindhouse, exploitation, drive-in, and B-movies. Your 3 hosts, Mike.
We're going to discuss the Rene Martinez directed picture, The $6,000.
Wait, whoa.
That's the name of the movie.
Super Soul Brother.
That's the name.
When you start the movie,
look at your DVD cover.
When you start the movie, the first thing that comes up is the title, and it says
$6,000.
Mark.
And I've been around a girl stroking a horse's dick.
Somehow, somewhere down the line, I'm going to use that clip against you.
Shh. Do it. Please do.
And listener favorite Iris.
The deployment sock. And I'm like, deployment sock? What the fuck is a deployment sock? He goes, you know that sock that you just use? Oh my god, you guys are so gross. See, so it happens for real. People do come in socks.
We'll make you question your political correctness while laughing at theirs. Episodes drop Sunday and can be found by searching for BB and BC Podcast via iTunes, Libsyn, Stitcher, Google Play Music, and everywhere else you can download quality podcasts from. You can also listen to episodes directly from the show's website at bbnbcpodcast.com.
Did you ever see a film at such a young age it left you traumatized with cinematic wounds? Necrophilia. It's a dead issue, man. Don't push it. Cinema Psyops is a weekly podcast documenting an ongoing experiment on the mind of an unwilling test subject.
No one should have to watch this movie.
Oh, no one should have to watch this?
No one should have to watch this movie.
Surprisingly, it's not a topic that a lot of people really want to tackle.
I'm shocked, prudes.
I know, really.
Right?
It's the next sexual frontier that no one wants to explore.
I am, in the most sincerest of senses, disappointed in you.
It takes a powerful goddess like Connie, jam her arm down the monster's throat and kill it. Oh, I'm still tripping out over that. Even as a kid, I was like, I gotta find a girl like that. Every week, I get a new look of disappointment that I never thought I could get out of her.
Unimaginable. At 12 years old, you should not be watching this movie.
Obviously.
At 13, you should not be. 14, you shouldn't be. I'm not entirely sure even 17-year-olds should be watching this.
Just because you're offended by something doesn't mean that you have the right to demand that it doesn't exist. Watching this film again, I had all of this like little nerd glee with everything that kept
little
popping
history
up.
all popping up
absolutely.
at you.
So I totally loved this film.
Hey, I know why you couldn't see that. It's because your brain's warped from watching this shit at 12 years old.
Yeah, this is a rough movie. I told you ahead of time when we were getting ready to do it that it was.
How
be a
did you
rough
watch
one.
this shit at 12?
Because physical wounds heal, cinematic ones don't. Listen to Cinema Psyops.
All right, so we should just move right on to the fucking movie we're going to talk about now, and we're going to be looking at Aguirre, The Wrath of God from 1972.
Towards the end of the year 1560, following the conquest of Peru, a few Spanish adventurers undertake the boldest mission of their lives. With 1,100 men, 2 women, captive Indians, and animals, they descend from the Andes down into the steaming primeval forests where the waters of the Amazon begin. In quest of El Dorado, the fabled city of gold. But the forest swallows them up. Its secret is preserved.
What's all the trouble about? Do you know, Enos?
You shouldn't ask. It's your father.
If I, Aguirre, want the birds to drop dead from the trees, then the birds will drop dead from the trees. I'm the wrath of God.
Aguirre, I know exactly what you intend to do to Ursula. Every last detail. And God will punish you for it.
Get out of my way! Keep him! Keep him in front! I want all the men forward! Get away from that food! Look for Indians! Go! Fire! Set fire to the village!
else is with me.
Written directed by Werner Herzog, starring Klaus Kinski as Don Lope de Aguirre, Helena Rojo as Inez, Del Negro as Brother Gaspar de Carvajal, Ray Guerrera as Don Pedro de Urza, Peter Berling as Don Fernando de Guzman, Cecilia Rivera as Flores, Daniel Herdes as Perchulo, Edward Rolando as Okello, and Armando Polana as Armando. And I'll just go to a very quick IMDb synopsis here. This is from, Jesus Christ, I don't even want to pronounce this guy's last name. It's I think it's Greek of some sort. It's Chris Macrozahapolius. I think.
There you go.
Either way, if your IMDb synopsis is good, we'll forgive your name. Otherwise,
Mac Daddy, my rose got polio.
Yeah. Otherwise, we'll fuck you. A few decades after the destruction of the Inca Empire, a Spanish expedition leaves the mountains of Peru and goes down the Amazon River in search of gold and wealth. Soon, they come across great difficulties, and Don Aguirre, a ruthless man who cares only about riches, becomes their leader. But will his quest lead him to the Golden City, El Dorado, or to certain destruction? That kind of covers the plot of this. Well, I think we'll get into it, whether there's really much of a plot in this film at all or not. But yeah,
well, I'm glad that you kind of said that, because I was like, "What is this film about? What happened?"
But there you go, Chris. Good synopsis, sir. So you're not one of those. You're not one of those IMDb fucking retards. So this is your first time watching this, I assume, Paul?
Yep.
Yeah. So
actually, the first time I watched it with the first link that you gave that was English, I don't know if you watched that one, but it literally repeats itself, like scenes over and over and over and over and over again.
Oh, really?
So the 1 hour and 39-minute film was probably only 20 minutes long, but it just kept repeating itself, different scenes. So then I had to I couldn't take any more, and then I went and watched it in German.
Right on.
So I lost probably a lot of the nuances of language, but
we'll see. But so what's your sort of initial impression on this one?
It was beautiful, epic, careless, and dangerous. Can I just if you know what I mean? Like if you look at even just the first shots in the movie, I'm like, oh my god, that's beautiful, that's crazy, they're stupid. I'm surprised more people didn't die.
Yeah, no one actually died on this production, but you would be surprised to hear that, because they had no stuntmen. Everything you see in this film, all the dangerous shit you see in this film, was the actual actors and the extras doing that shit. So, like, when you watch them, the initial shots, which are really fucking beautiful, where they're just going down the Andes like ants, like in a fucking trail, because the shot is so high up watching them. There's no real defined paths that they're going down there. Like I think the paths were, like ancient, like Inca, Mayan, kind of paths or whatever that were going down there. So there was paths, but they were super fucking dangerous and slippery. At this point today, because it's much more of a tourist destination, there's real paths there.
Yeah.
Probably handrails, I would assume.
Yeah. With a shrubbery.
Yeah. But you had a production here where there was only 8 people in the crew, and then the rest were all actors and extras, and you saw the majority of them in that shot, and you're trying to basically get 400 people down the fucking Andes.
And one person starts slipping and falling.
Yeah. And
it terrified me.
Domino effect is kind of...
And it was in the mist. Like they were walking, like they say, were descending down from the clouds. All that was wet.
Yeah, and apparently Werner Herzog had to convince them to do it that day. No one wanted to apparently do it, but he convinced them to to shoot on that day. That was one of the rare days, I guess, where the mist wasn't super bad. But for the most part, the narration goes about how they descended from the clouds, and that's legit. The Andes are that high up where you're coming down through the mist and you see the jungle, and everything is fucking wet and just moist and humid. And
that's why they call it the rainforest, baby.
Absolutely fucking beautiful shots. The coolest thing about the production of this one is it's such a hands-on, do-it-yourself production, because they actually, when they finally get to the river and they get on the rafts, it wasn't a fucking studio thing where you could shoot stuff in like sound stages and shit like that. They shot everything on the river, and they basically followed the movie in a linear fashion. So the crew is always on rafts shooting. They're going through the story and going down the river as the actual story is going down the river. So the crew that's shooting is always in the same amount of danger, basically, as all the actors and actresses.
Absolute zero guarantee a raft won't capsize. Zero guarantee that someone won't fall over and drown. Zero guarantee they won't get malaria or dysentery. It's so insane. This film is just so insane. And the thing about it is, there's these epically beautiful shots, but at the same time, you get this handheld camera feel to some of the shots too. But it's still it has this breath to it that you can't really capture in other films.
Yeah, I feel like this is kind of, you could compare this to movies that are shot in Australia, where the idea is that man against nature. Australia is incredibly desolate and incredibly beautiful at the same time. And there's just this kind of sense that man probably shouldn't be in certain places in Australia. It's just so oppressive and isolated. It's just inevitable that it's going to destroy anyone who walks in there. And you kind of get the same feeling with this when you're seeing the scenery here. Like, everything's very lush and green, and just the people feel like they're walled in. Like, it feels
like
very
claustrophobic.
Yeah, it really does. And I think Werner Herzog does like just a really great job of expressing that, especially, and you mentioned the handheld cameras, they're on the actual rafts. I think this is one of the best movies for putting the actual viewer of the movie right in the shoes of someone who would be sitting on one of those rafts. You really get the feel that you're kind of there with those people. And that's kind of the strength of Werner Herzog, because he's actually a very accomplished documentary filmmaker. This feels almost like if someone had a video camera back in the 1500s filming this actual expedition, and they're on the raft. It feels like you're right there in the action.
Absolutely. I would go with that 100%. It was even nice to see the one scene, as I said, that kind of really home video camcorder, but yet still well done. The guy playing with the butterfly on his finger.
Right.
Like, that kind of just, it's so crazy. Just that little shot. And it has that, and it does have that kind of weird 70s feel to it. I got like reminiscence of some of the classics that we enjoy from the 70s in that shot too. That film quality.
There's a lot of quirky shots here, because I think the big thing to mention here is that, like, if you go into this film, don't expect like a big narrative. There is a story, there are characters, but they're very much pushed aside for a lot of this. It's much more about the visuals, and really as the sort of their journey goes on, it just keeps breaking off into these weird moments, like these weird shots, like you mentioned the butterfly thing. It's just out of the blue. You get these long shots on characters just staring off in the distance. You get several shots of Klaus Kinski with that pipe player, the pan flute player. There's no context for it. Like, it doesn't mean anything to the story. But Klaus Kinski is just like sort of staring off into space, and this pan flute player, who was a local guy they hired, who was mentally disabled but enthusiastic to be on the production. And he's not that good of a fucking pan flute player. Like, he's pretty bad.
Little soft on the breath.
Little soft, yeah. But I mean, it's just that weird combination of those two things. It just makes a stamp on your fucking mind. Like, man, there's weird shit going on here. It's slightly humorous too. Like, there's humor kind of flowing through this, but at the same time, it's just kind of weird. And underneath it, it's kind of fucking scary too, because as they go down the river, they're slowly being picked off by the different native tribes down the river. Like, they're seeing these white devils basically going down on their rafts down the fucking Amazon, and as they move into every new sort of twist and turn of the Amazon, they're slowly getting picked off. But just
they hit
the dark.
They hit the first unmanned camp that was on fire. Found out it was a cannibal
Mhm.
camp that Spaniards have been eaten at, and then later down the river, they hear the people yelling, and they said, "What are they yelling?" It says, "Fresh meat is going past us. Fresh meat is going past us." I'm like, "Oh, that's a feeling." And they're being driven on in this claustrophobic, backstabby world by a sociopath that they can't seem to shake.
Mm-hmm. Klaus Kinski's performance here, he just dominates everything. Again, like I said, not much of a plot, not many characters. It's much more just about Klaus Kinski as Aguirre. He's kind of the central thing of this, like the central anchor to it. And he dominates not only as a character in the actual story, he just dominates as a fucking actor. Like he's just all over the film.
And he gives this film menace at every angle. They let the horse go, and then he's just staring at the horse as it's going away. And for some reason, you get this weird menacing feel of, is he happy that the horse got away? Is he? I just like it was like I am. What? And then he went to his daughter just to let her know that the horse is going to be okay. And I'm like, you have so many angles in this that I can't grasp right now. I'm like, are you love your daughter, but you're a freako, and
Yeah, that's a weird haunting scene too, and the horse has one of those fucking hoods on its head too, that you know, like one of those ceremonial hoods or whatever the fuck.
The Tombs of the Blind Dead horses.
Yeah, really, and it's just freaky as fuck. Like it doesn't make sense in a standard kind of narrative context, but it's kind of ghostly and just kind of spooky, like seeing the horse as you drift away, and it's peering out from the jungle, looking at them. And then previous to that, Klaus Kinski,
get out of my way!
Get out of my way! Scares the fucking horse down to its fucking knees.
Yeah,
they actually had to tranquilize the horse, and apparently they knew the exact point when the horse was about to drop, and they started the scene when they did that, just so they could get the right reaction and have Klaus Kinski scare the horse down to its knees or whatever. But
you can't do that anymore. You got to CGI the horse.
Oh yeah, I think we'll get into animal abuse a little bit more here later, but I think there's a lot of great stuff here. Like the narrative is not super strong, but it does make a point of criticizing certain things as well. There's a character here who is of royalty. There's the Duke, who Klaus Kinski as Aguirre basically uses him as a puppet kind of like emperor,
the governor or something like that, or the emperor. Yeah, what do you ever say?
Yeah. He was a duke, and he appoints him like fucking lord of or emperor of Peru or some shit like that. You know, because they're rebelling against the Spanish crown.
Basically, he's the lord of the privies.
Yeah, but I mean, he's presented as this loutish, lazy, foolish guy who's always taking shits, basically. Like later on in the film, it's established that he likes to take shits, basically.
Basically, what I got is that he basically died of dysentery.
No, he was strangled to death.
Yeah, and I was like, what happened? Dead, fat shit, dead.
Yeah,
I'm like, okay, what happened?
And he's pretty much the only guy who's able to take shits because no one else is eating anything at that point.
Yeah. I saw something white on his chest for a second, but I wasn't sure what it was. I don't like, was it toilet paper because he was taking so many shits? I don't know.
It was a homemade garrote. It was one of those ones where you take the cloth and you put a stick in it.
Oh, okay, and then you twist the stick.
Yeah, you twist the stick and strangle it.
Right? For second girlfriend, I remember that.
So he's the royalty. He's lazy and foolish. The clergyman in this is presented as this cowardly, racist piece of shit.
Yeah,
who's only interested in gold.
Brings more death than anything else.
Yeah, he's only interested in gold. The soldiers are, for the most part, pretty cruel and devious. Like, they're always trying to plot, and they're going with Aguirre for a while, you know, because, hey, he's the strongest right now or whatever. But, you know, there's always guys kind of plotting, maybe I can get away with...
This has one of the cheesiest, cheapest, but best decapitations I've ever seen.
It's so good, isn't it?
Yeah. And when he has to count to 10, and on the 10... his head's on the other side, and I'm like, oh, that's awesome.
okay, you got no vocal cords, so technically that can't work anymore.
I mean, if you would have just mouthed 10, it would have been more accurate, but at the same time, still awesome.
Yeah, but I mean, this whole movie at the same time, it's kind of almost it becomes like a fever dream kind of thing where the narrative isn't necessarily real anymore. It kind of gets surreal. So I let it slide, and just because it's done so well, like the cut and the head, cut to the head goes really good, and it's pretty much flawless.
Right.
And also, so the soldiers, like I said, they're cruel and devious. The slaves, the native slaves, and the women are just kind of stuck.
Yeah,
they can't do anything. I mean, one of the slaves is he says, like, he's still one of the few slave characters that actually gets to talk. He actually talks about how he was once basically an Incan prince.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's forced to be a slave, and he's basically low, and all of his people are brought down. And all the Spanish, they treat the Incans, and they have some black slaves too in this, like wherever they acquired them from, somewhere in Africa, I imagine.
And he definitely, the English version, he just sounds like he's from, North Philly. Like, I don't know, okay, what's the accent on that? I didn't expect that. I thought it was like he'd have a little bit more like an accent or something, but no, there you go.
And it's interesting because they actually shot this and they filmed it with English dialogue initially. Like the main track on this, everyone's speaking English on this.
Yeah.
And when you get to the German version that was eventually done, Klaus Kinski demanded more money for showing up to read his part, so they're like, fuck you, and they got some other guy to do his voice. So if you listen to the German version, you're not hearing Klaus Kinski at all. And actually, I think the German version actually sounds a bit better. Like, the English version is a little off here and there, but that's just personal preference here. Mm-hmm. What do you think about Kinski's acting in this? Because he definitely the standout character in this, and he gives like this really big physical performance.
Well, I like what is with he leans to his right the whole time, kind of leaning and a little bit out. I don't know. He just kind of leans the whole time.
Well, here's the thing. Initially, they had envisioned that he was going to have a hump on his back. But they basically decided not to do that, and they decided that, I guess, technically he's maybe wounded in some way from a previous battle or something along those lines.
Might be one of the reasons why he was put second in command, which really he hated.
Yeah, and so Kinski just basically developed this. It wasn't so much by design. Werner Herzog, when he wrote this script, he wrote it in 2.5 days. He did not do a lot of historical fucking research on this or anything like that, so it's mostly just fiction. And also, funny story here, when he was writing it, apparently he was with, I guess he was part of a soccer team, and they were on a bus, and they got super drunk, and one of his teammates puked on half the script, so he had to throw several pages out, and he basically just kept what he had that was salvageable, and that was basically the script for this film. But, so, yeah, Klaus Kinski got, like, a lot of room to develop his character here. So he's got this weird leaning walk that's almost kind of like crab-like or tarantula-like or something along those lines, But
like, it adds to his off character at the same time.
Right, because he's walking like a crab, but he's looking around. Like, he walks into frame several times in this film, and he looks around like he's a fucking bird or a lizard or something like that,
Yeah, always moving his head and neck and looking around and just kind of, and his neck is never going where his eyes are going. It's always a different direction, and he just gives this unease to the whole scene.
Klaus Kinski, a crazy person, legit a fucking crazy person,
and hard to work with.
Yeah, and terrible to work with. And this was the first time Kinski and Herzog collaborated together. They did 5 films together. This was the first one they did. He had a lot of problems on set. He scared legit the majority of the cast with his antics. There was one point where apparently during one of the nights, some of the crew or the extras were playing music too loud. He legit shot gunfire into their tent to stop them from fucking playing music. Blew the tip off of one person's finger. There was an incident during shooting. It's the scene where they attack the village that's on fire, I believe, and they run up there, and he hits one of the conquistadors on the head with his sword. If that guy had not been wearing a helmet, he legit probably would have had his skull split open.
Mm-hmm.
That's how hard he hit him. He hit him, indented the helmet, and drew blood, apparently.
Under the helmet.
Yeah, so Kinski was typical kind of Kinski here, being very unwieldy, irrational, breaking out.
Yeah, he started smacking the guys when they were trying to eat food instead of find the Indians. Yeah.
Yeah, and Herzog basically... Herzog knew Kinski before this. He had roomed with him for a little while before this and was sort of familiar with his outbursts and shit like that and how to kind of use him. Basically what he did is wait for Kinski to burn himself out. He let Kinski rant and rave on set for a long time until he was so burned out, and then he hit cameras and started filming to try to get... So when you watch Kinski performing here, a lot of his stuff is just him staring and making weird faces and being much more drawn back. And there's only a few real outbursts here from the character. And that's mainly because he was just so exhausted and tired. And those were the takes that Herzog was going for here, to get it more reserved.
I like when Herzog, because Herzog in the film, not Herzog, Kinski, The Wrath of God. He has his stooge, and he just whispers to the stooge his orders, and he doesn't need to have an outburst because he'll have his stooge take care of it. And I like the fact that he was dead set against helping the stranded raft.
Yeah.
And so the leader, well, you're not in charge, buddy. You know, that kind of attitude started getting people around to save the raft. And while they were doing that, he just fucking blew the fucking raft up on the other side of the thing. He didn't do it, of course. He just had his stooge do it.
Yeah. That's the weird thing. It's like some of these incidents, it's just implied what's happened. Like, you don't necessarily 100% know. Like, I think it feels pretty obvious that he sent somebody over there to kill those people in the raft. You could kind of think maybe it's the natives, but it doesn't feel right because you look at the bodies afterwards that they show on the raft. There's a shot right down on the raft. And there's no arrows in any of those people. Mm-mm. So I think it's pretty obvious that they were all shot. Yeah, so you have to unravel plot points from this because it's not super strong on story. It's much more of a kind of a mood piece. It's much more about everybody on this expedition just unraveling in their fucking minds and going crazy.
Yeah, and the only will stronger than Herzog's was the betrothed wife of the first captain.
You mean Kinski?
Kinski, sorry, yeah. She was the only person stronger than he was.
Yeah, and then she realizes quickly the madness of the whole thing and just walks off into the fucking jungle.
You know what? And I like that kind of, you know what? Fuck you. I'm out of here. I'll deal with the cannibals.
Yeah. Yeah, she just walks off. It's like getting eaten by cannibals is better.
It's well, if you look at it in that sense, it doesn't remind me of it. But it reminds me of the end of Ravenous, where she's like, you know what? I'm out. I gotta go, and she just goes. Martha's just gone. I'm out of here. Fuck you guys. I'm dealing with the wolves.
Yeah, exactly. Smartest character in that film.
This film reminds me a lot of the film that came out in 2007 or something. It's called, or 2001. It's called Severed Ways. A Viking. It's like a bunch of black metal kids made it. It's about the Vikings settling North America and then being all basically killed.
Oh yeah, there's another one that was released a few years ago by the same guy who did Drive. It's called Valhalla Rising.
Yes, I've seen that one as well.
Yeah, and that one's very similar to this in a lot of ways. It's got that very surreal, dreamlike quality to it, and a very kind of doomed expedition from the start kind of feel. I mean, there's more going on with that because there's allusions to the main character being like some sort of representation of Odin on Earth and shit.
Yeah, and I love it in the film where he ties the guy, his first victim, to the rock and then slices his guts out and then picks him up when he's still alive and drops him on the ground.
Yeah,
because they used to do entrail readings and stuff, and it's just like, that's awesome. Very good film. Yes.
Yeah, we got to fucking do that film too at some point.
Well, we'll do both at the same time, maybe. See what they think.
Yeah.
This film, to me, has a thing I was looking forward to it, and it wasn't in there. It's kind of like the urban legend of films or whatever.
Mhm.
I don't know. Maybe you can shine light on this. I was always told there's a scene in the film where they're pulling a boat up a mountain, and then when the boat goes down the other side, and this was supposed to be on film, like people in the crew got killed. That's what I was told.
That is Fitz, Colorado. That's a later film that he did.
Okay.
And I don't remember anyone being killed on that production, but they actually did again with Werner Herzog. The way he does filmmaking is very visceral and just right on the point. Like actually do it yourself. Actually do the things that are actually happening in the film that you're basically depicting. They actually built a ship and they actually did move it over a fucking mountain for the production of that film. But I'd have to go back and look at details, but I don't remember anyone actually being killed on that production, but it was a hard production, just like this film was.
Well, at the end of the film, you see they thought they were having hallucinations, and you see the boat up in the tree, and I'm like, well, maybe that's it. Maybe that's how they got that boat up in the tree, because I don't know any of the backstory about the boat in the tree either, but it's a great shot.
Funny thing about that is that was a missing part from the script that they basically cut out, where there was this initial kind of thing where they were going to find an earlier expedition and they were going to find all the skeletons and shit from that earlier expedition. Mm-hmm. And they were going to find one of the boats and it was going to be stuck in a tree. But they decided to instead incorporate that into sort of the hallucinations of the crew. Basically, I'm seeing this weird shit all of a sudden. But they actually did build a fucking mock-up boat in a tree. Like, it wasn't a full boat. I assume it was just one half of a boat.
Right, yes.
They sourced various Amazon native tribes as their workers and their extras and all that. So they had I think, like 100 or so Amazonian natives build that mock-up of the boat and stick it up on that tree. Everything you see there, like, it's there.
Right.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful shot. Like, it's just weird because you see that black slave and he goes, "I see a boat and there's a canoe hanging from it." And then the priest goes, "No, it's all illusion. Nothing you see is real." And then later on, he gets an arrow in his leg. This arrow's not real.
The boat's not real. This cannon, this arrow is not real. Yeah. And then it's just like, "You fools! It is real." Hey,
it's real. Get down, shoot!
Boom! Like always, a cannon always ready to fire, no matter what.
It's weird. It's weird. You get to the end, and Aguirre is actually kind of the sanest guy on the entire fucking boat because at least he knows it's reality.
You can't crack somebody who's cracked. He's already done. He was on there. He was there already. He was dealing with it.
Yeah.
And actually, it's really interesting when you actually see the priest trying to kill Aguirre.
Yeah, he gets hit with the arrow, and then finally he's had it, and he's trying to hit him with the sword. And
you know what? Fuck this.
Yeah, and Aguirre just steps on his arm and goes, "Well, you better pray." You better pray basically that your God's merciful or whatever because you're fucked.
Yeah, especially after he just had the two almost naked helpless natives who he stole from, and then just had killed.
Yeah, that's an interesting scene. Like that just kind of adds to the Catholic Church in.
And Greg, by the way, you get some nice rainforest titties.
Yeah, well, nice.
So there you go. Shout out, Greg.
Nice is debatable.
No, they're for Greg. They're titties. It's gonna be
okay. Well, there you go. But yeah, it's National Geographic style right there.
Hey, that's what I grew up on. We're good.
Kind of strengthens the Catholic Church being really just corrupt and oppressive and disgusting. This guy, he's all about gold. He's all about fame, and he's a turncoat and a coward. And Aguirre finally has no use for him anymore and just steps on his arm and lets him die. Basically.
I love the fact that Aguirre is very self-aware of what's going on, and he says to the priest, mocking him because he knows what's going on. He's like, "Oh, don't you want a big old golden cross with jewels and everything instead of that little silver one that you had lost?" And you get to see the face of the priest when he turns around and just stands there like, "That bastard knows I'm right." Like he knows I'm right.
I'm gonna correct you there though. That's not Aguirre. That's
was that Aguirre? That was the emperor. That was the emperor.
Yeah, that's the guy.
Sorry, I fucked up. But I love the fact that like that face he pulls, like, God, they're right, motherfucker. How do they know?
Right. I'm a piece of shit. I know.
How do they know? Yeah, it's like, well, because you're really obvious. You're really obvious.
It's really good. Like, it's weird because it doesn't feel like a big character film, but there's so many great character moments in it at the same time. But it's mostly just driven by the journey and just how it devolves. But at the same time, everybody in it's really good. Like, it's just really well acted.
I'll go back to a good Emperor moment when he's getting a hard on about all this to the left and all this to the right and all this. It's all ours now. It's like 6 times bigger than Spain, and the more we go down the river, the bigger it gets. And Aguirre comes in and goes, "Do you have any proof of land at all to back that up? All we see is water and trees. So have at it, asshole."
Yeah, and the funny thing is, I mean, at that point, they're on the Amazon where the tides are really high. So it's actually when they're going down those rafts, like again, like we talked about how they were basically shooting most of the stuff from the rafts and actually living on the rafts themselves as they were shooting. Mm-hmm. There was no place they could actually land for the most part because the majority of the high tides on the fucking Amazon would flood out over the ground, like a mile or more each way. So as soon as you hit any side where the shore used to be, it was just trees and all the ground was water. So
right. And I know there are certain places in the Amazon where they don't have large caiman. I don't know if they researched that first, but you don't see anything in the film. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I've never heard any problems with that. But there are subtle places where they aren't at. So I'm sure they did a little research. Okay, we need to film and do a lot in the river. Don't go here. You're like one of those guys. This part, no. That part, yeah, okay. One of those kind of deals. But there is
and you know what? Werner Herzog, I kind of doubt he gave a shit, honestly.
Yeah.
I think they just got lucky.
Yeah, we might just got lucky on that one, big boy.
Yeah, because, I mean, the funny thing is, you would expect a lot of these people would have gotten a malaria or something doing this journey. Mm-hmm. Nobody on this production got any diseases except for apparently one person.
Oh, I was going to say, nobody got the shits at least?
One person got herpes, I believe.
Well, yeah, but I mean, that was on purpose.
Or hepatitis, one or the other. I can't remember which one it was. But everyone else was, the only thing they might have got was maybe like... fever or just kind of general dysentery or something like that, but none of the normal like tropical diseases you would expect them to get.
Yeah, I was gonna say you can get herpes or hepatitis if you film almost anywhere in America anymore. So whatever.
I mean, Werner Herzog at one point he cut into a tree for some reason and got like just this massive amount of fire ants dropped on him and bit him. He got like bit 150 times and had like a bad fever from that. Apparently he was bitten by the monkeys in the final scene, and we'll get more into the acquisition of the monkeys here when we get to the trivia. But
those damn macaques, biting me.
But what's your sort of overall final thoughts on this one, though, Paul?
I like the film overall. I watched the film going, what is the fucking point of this film? A couple times. Because it just goes on and it's not going to have a real ending at all. And it's just, it's the reality of blind optimism. It's the Donner Party in river form. It's those little things that, it's a dream, it's fake, it's bullshit, and the only reason you're going is greed, and you're gonna fail.
Yeah,
and that's what happens, and that's it's Manifest Destiny, the expansion. That's what it is, and it happened back with them, and then it happened in America and all this jazz, and a lot of those people ended up dead, and this is just another example of that. And but overall, the film is good. The knowing how the film is going to end before you watch it, though, gives it a very dark aura as well.
Mm-hmm.
Especially at the point inside when when they say the men are so sick, the one thought it was ink was medicine.
Yeah, ink was medicine and drank it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I cannot write any more after this, and I'm like, oh yeah, they're definitely dead soon. It was like one of those kind of things.
Yeah, all these people are fucked. Aguirre just leads them to death. There's no possible return from what they're doing.
And the sad thing is, I think I do have this feeling that connection where he'd leave his daughter for a good reason, but at the same time he doomed his daughter to death. If you know what I mean? If I have to leave the world, she has to leave the world with me, kind of a vibe. But yet he does love her.
He has this weird possessive and slightly incestuous kind of relationship with her, where especially at the end where he's full on crazy and he says, I'm going to have sex with my daughter, we're going to have like pure offspring and a new dynasty of pure nobles to rule the world and shit. It's like he's just finally just like gone off his fucking nut at that point.
One thing I am shocked by, there is no rape in the film.
No.
Because there were chances for rape in the film and it didn't happen. And I'm like, you know what? That's pretty classy. I couldn't be that classy. You know what I mean? Like, there you go. So,
although I would have voted for some Cannibal Ferox style shit going on.
Yeah,
though.
that would be okay. And the one thing as I liked is they didn't cut up a sea turtle because, I don't know, again, classy.
Yeah, no, the only thing I wanted to see was that pan flute player get, like, eaten. Like, bisected and eaten. That would have been fun.
By another tribe. Yeah. It's like a little cut open it, or he's still playing his flute. That'd be great. Maybe you can actually blow it correctly then. You can get your guts ripped out. Woo, woo, woo. Yeah, but no, it was fun. I think there wasn't enough direction, I feel, for his daughter when she was dying, because she was dead and then awake again, then dead, then awake again, then dead. And I'm like, okay, are you dead or are you awake?
Yeah, apparently Werner Herzog said he wanted to make the death scene a little like less cinematic. And so he basically just wanted her to die without feeling pain. So she was awake for the whole thing, apparently. And she's just kind of opening her eyes and looking at her father and looking around and shit. It's kind of weird. It's not kind of traditional death scene at any.
Right. But you get that kind of like connection. Like, oh, well, he's actually kind of sad. He doesn't show it, but I think he is. You know, that kind of deal. And then he just starts like a lion in a cage around his perimeter.
Yeah.
His domain. This belongs to him. Nothing else does, and he's pissed now because he can't get out. And he's by himself. And he starts pacing just like a lion.
And he's got his monkey army, at least.
Me and my monkey army. I am the Gorilla King. I'm sorry.
Who's with me? Who's with me?
Who's with me? I'm the king of the howler monkeys. Look at my proboscis. It's huge.
Yeah.
He's a baboon with a big red ass. And he literally squeezes the shit out of that monkey.
Yeah, and apparently...
And then just throws it down, which is funny.
Apparently, Klaus Kinski, who's probably the guy who deserved to be bitten by monkeys, apparently didn't get bit by
one actually climbed right the hell up and hung out there for a while and climbed back down. And then he picked the other one up and literally squeezed the shit right out of it and then just threw it. But at the same time, I don't remember because, again, the first film I watched was skippy, skippy, skip, 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 repeat, repeat, repeat. I remember seeing the pig. I remember saying someone said, does anybody have a knife? But I don't remember seeing the pig get knifed. I don't remember any monkeys getting their heads bitten off.
No.
I don't remember. The one guy took a bite out of a fish at one point in time. But other than that, I don't really remember any unnecessary animal killings or anything.
Yeah, there's none of that. I mean, it's kind of weird. It's almost like the clean PG version of like a Cannibal Ferox film.
I thought it was Cannibal Holocaust made by PETA.
Yeah,
only the humans suffer because PETA has this problem where they don't realize that humans are also animals because they're perfectly fine when humans suffer, but just not furry animals. Or any kind of animal but. Humans are animals too, guys. Don't you realize that? Kind of stupid on your part.
Yeah, I do agree with some of PETA's goals, but they're extremists and they're crazy.
Yeah, well, I like people eat tasty animals.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
that part.
That's the PETA I'm in.
That's the PETA I'm in, baby. Not that.
Yeah, that stuff, baby. We're good for that.
Right.
What'd you think of the music on this? Like, this is Florian Fricke / Popovu. This was the first collaboration between him and Herzog on a film. They did the soundtrack for Aguirre eventually after this, although it only included basically like 2 cuts from the actual film. But to be fair, it's only 6 tracks, and they're all like several minutes long. All the music that you hear on the album actually is in this film. And it's like a combination of Moog synthesizer shit and something I guess they developed together, like that weird chorus that you hear through a lot of the film. Apparently it was an instrument that they just kind of built on the spot and made to produce that effect. So
out of human bones.
Yeah, maybe. You never know with Herzog. But yeah, what do you think of the music on this? Do you think it was
just atmosphere, building atmosphere that just added to the last film we did that we were talking about? It's just atmosphere that builds to the film. It wasn't like a score upon itself. It was an atmosphere, another part of the film for me. Plus the river sounds too. The chorus of the jungle. And the other thing is, just like you're in a real jungle or the real woods, when it's really loud and things are going crazy, and then every single creature stops making noise, it gives you the shivers.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I'm glad you mentioned that. There's moments here where everything goes dead silent, and you can see the fear on the crew's faces. They're scared and they're looking around. And those are times where the natives are watching them. Like all the wildlife goes silent, and there's people right on the shoreline, and you just can't fucking see them. And they're watching you go down the river.
Yeah.
It's almost got that kind of deliverance feel, too.
Yes.
Like
yeah. I mean,
isolation.
When you feel you're completely alone is when most of the eyes are on you, that kind of a thing. It's one of those weird, it's just creepy. And you see that in a lot of the North American pioneer films and stuff like that. It was when he's all alone, and the next thing you know, he's surrounded by people.
This film, a lot of the stuff you see here shot in this was Francis Ford Coppola actually said this was a big influence on Apocalypse Now.
Right.
Sort of the same idea, right? And I mean, this is very much like a Heart of Darkness kind of idea of, going down the river on a quest and just being dehumanized as you go along, just going more and more crazy and everything going out of whack.
It's kind of like college.
Sort of. A little bit more wet.
Wet. Ooh, that's a good word. Moist.
A lot of less food.
No, that sounds like college.
Yeah.
For some.
I don't think they even had ramen noodles though for for this.
That's not like college at all. Never mind. Sorry. Moist.
Yeah. I want to talk here briefly about the monkeys used in this. To obtain the monkeys used in the climatic sequence, Herzog paid several locals to trap 400 monkeys. He paid them half in advance and was to pay the other half upon receipt. The trappers sold the monkeys to someone in Los Angeles or Miami, and Herzog came to the airport just as the monkeys were being loaded to be shipped out of the country. He pretended to be a veterinarian and claimed that the monkeys needed vaccinations before leaving the country. Abashed, the handlers unloaded the monkeys, and Herzog loaded them into his Jeep and drove away, used them in the shot they were required for, and released them afterwards into the jungle.
Yeah, and that's how Herzog got herpes.
He was the guy.
I gotta vaccinate you, baby. Just hold that monkey down. Yeah. Man, that feels good.
And a little note here on the accuracy of the film. The film's major characters are all based on people from a 1560 expedition to find El Dorado from Peru. There was an expedition of 300 men. They traveled down the Amazon River, but they never found anything.
Right.
There was another expedition that's also kind of paired into this that it's based on. Aguirre was a real person. He actually did rebel against the Spanish crown. He basically co-opted one of these expeditions and tried to start a rebellion, but he failed, and his rebellion was put down, and he was drawn and quartered for his trouble. He was determined to conquer Panama and shit like that, but he got fucked.
Panama.
Yeah. But there was another expedition, and a lot of the stuff that's sort of proposed here as like the clergyman's notes. He was actually the guy who chronicled the earlier expedition that was definitely looking for El Dorado. It was a 1560 expedition merged with a 1541 and 1542 expedition, basically. But it's fictional, but they bring a lot of real life characters into it and just sort of fictionalize the whole thing, and I think it works. I mean,
no, it does work, and it's so ancient history that you have a little bit of a literary license. I mean, as long as you don't do anything too far fetched.
It feels realistic, even though, like Herzog said, he didn't do a lot of research into like the reality of that time or anything like that. Or
he was too busy having people puke on him.
Go to DVD info for this one. The one I own is the Anchor Bay DVD from 2000. I don't know how readily available that one is anymore, but you could go to the Shout Factory Blu-ray that was released in 2015. Shout Factory TV, the website, has this on there streaming in English, if you so desire, and you can also get it on Amazon Video for super fucking cheap. And then there's some crappy like Putlocker versions out there and YouTube versions out there as well, if you want to dive into those ones. Budget for this one was $370,000. A third of that was Kinski's salary. Yeah, so this was super low budget. Again, like I said, they went down the fucking river and basically shot this film in a linear fashion. So the journey you see in this film is essentially the journey that the film crew took as they were going down. Like all the hardships and shit that the characters face in this are basically the hardships that they faced going down the river. Because like for a lot of the production, the actual people filming this were starving and suffering the same conditions that these conquistadors would have faced. I mean, it's not quite exactly the same 100%, but it is fairly close. I mean, the costumes you see these people wearing, the conquistadors, all those armor pieces were authentic armor pieces they sourced from Spain. So, it wasn't like fake chainmail and shit they were wearing. They were actually wearing legit shit.
Yeah, very heavy stuff, scaling a wet mountain.
Mm-hmm.
And sweating their asses off, And the other thing is, I noticed they spent many days and nights, obviously, in the film and in real life, but yet you don't get really any night shots. My theory of that would be it's so goddamn dark and the budget was so low that you couldn't really light the seat properly. And the other thing about the Amazon that I do know from just watching other people that have been in there is the bugs get even louder at night, where it's so almost deafeningly loud you probably couldn't hear any vocals if you wanted to anyway.
Oh no, yeah, good point. They didn't have the money for lighting, and the bugs definitely were a problem. On the commentary, Herzog talks about how like the bugs were bad, like super bad. Like, and if you watch the film closely, you see there's always bugs in the background and the foreground, like just going by and shit like that, and it's swarming around them. These guys were all just sweating and dirty and filthy as fuck filming this thing and going down the river. So yeah, they were
and both girls were in full dress, Spanish dresses and stuff. But
and
they were
at the
both
same
cute.
time,
I'd clean them up with my tongue.
Oh yeah, they were looking proper. Like the way he shoots people in this, a lot of times they're all standing still. Like it's almost like a picture. Like almost like a painting, like the way he shoots people, like standing in this, like they're standing very still and saying their dialogue. And then the jungle itself feels like a character. The way the jungle kind of invades into people's space, the way it moves behind them, it feels much more like a kind of character. Like there's shots in this that they used that were just incidents that happened that they hadn't planned, and they just incorporated it into the script. Like there's that one scene where the raft veers off to the side and it hits a bunch of low-hanging trees, and they're like, clear the trees, get the fucking raft back in the middle of the river. That was all legit. Like that actually happened, and they just kind of planned a scene around that spontaneously. They just did that. The scene where they wake up one day and their rafts are all gone, that was developed around the fact that the river rose overnight and wrecked their rafts that they built, and they had to rebuild their rafts.
Right.
So, I mean, it was very much a low-budget, do-it-yourself fucking production, and I think we'll do Fitz, Colorado at some point as well and talk about that. because very similar circumstances where the elements were against them, but Herzog was determined to do everything kind of organically and film organically and do everything that the characters would do if that they're depicting in the story. So just kudos to him. Like he is, like, as much as people say Kinski's a fucking crazy person, Herzog's fucking nuts. Like he's absolutely fucking crazy. No, most filmmakers wouldn't do this shit.
Yeah, well, I think that's why they get along like bread and butter. Because the thing is, if he didn't have all that, the other thing is he's already implemented, got his shit together because they lived together for a little bit. They worked together before, not professionally, but personally. So he already knew him, and I don't think a fresh melon would have been able to work with Kinski like that.
Yeah.
And if he did, it would have been like, okay, we're getting this film done. I'm never working with him again. Like a normal person would be like, no. They're both nuts. So they made 5 films together.
Yeah, and I mean, even then, fucking the rumors coming out of this one, that like they spiraled into like urban myths and stuff like that about how he had to hold a gun on Kinski and stuff to get him to perform. That didn't happen, but Herzog to this day talks about how he threatened Kinski with a gun. Like he said, if you don't stay on this production, I will bring a gun out of my tent and basically shoot you.
Yeah.
Like he legit said that he would do that. And apparently that calmed Kinski down for like 10 days or something like that in the production.
And I remember seeing a live shooting of behind the scenes of him just having a freak out at her. And basically he's like, yeah, okay, whatever. Do your thing. Yep. He's just like, and he's like, and the food is shit, and fuck you, and I hate this, and they all pieces of shit.
That was him. That was him calming him down. Like that was Herzog basically letting Kinski burn himself out to the point where he's so tired he just gave his performance and then moved on.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean,
okay.
Well, one crazy person using another crazy person to make beautiful art. That's basically
to make beautiful art. Yeah.
Yeah,
because I didn't know that, and so like what you were saying about the things, I'm like, okay, that's why he was going, okay, yeah, big boy, whatever, fuck you, like, yeah, okay, yep, yell some more. And no, fuck you, the food is shit. I fucking hate this, and he's like pointing, and you're an asshole, and fuck you, and I hate all of you, and it's like, oh my god, you're just a ray of sunshine, aren't you?
Oh yeah. Kinski was notorious for dominating fucking.
Most of the people there didn't have a trailer, maybe didn't eat. And he's bitching that his trailer's to this and the food is shit and fucking like, okay.
Kinski had mineral water motorboated in for him. Everyone else was drinking water from the Amazon.
Ugh.
So there you go. But yeah, I mean, my overall impression here, it feels weird to say because this is one of my favorite movies of all time and I would recommend it, but I necessarily wouldn't recommend it to everybody. It's right. I mean, if you're looking for a slower, more meditative kind of art film kind of thing, I
was going to say really art would be the word.
Yeah, if you're trying to get into that, then I highly recommend this. I wouldn't just tell someone who all they've ever watched is the Ghostbuster movies or something like that.
Right.
Here, jump into this because you're probably not going to like it. If you're just into sort of mainstream movies, you're probably not going to like it. But
did you like Deadpool? Check this out.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to do it. But yeah, it's actually one of the best made independent low budget movies I've ever seen, and I mean it's highly influential. It's moody, atmospheric. It's really great. If you're looking to get into just more interesting movies, like visually and thematically, this is one I would highly recommend. And that's kind of where I sit on this one.
Absolutely. I would have to ditto that one.
Yeah. So next week, potentially, will be Southern Comfort from Walter Hill from 1981. Going to try to arrange to get some guests on that one as well. Gary Hill wanted to do that, and I think he's trying to get his co-host, Jeffrey X. Martin, as well from Cinema Beef. So we might end up having a big fucking panel of people talking about Southern Comfort next week. Don't hold us on that one. We'll see. I'm trying to arrange the details for that one, so we'll find out. But until then, Paul, tell people where they can find you on the interwebs.
Go check me out at PA Brew News, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Oil Paintings by Paul Romali P. Romali on Facebook.
All right, cool. And you can find us, of course, on tmbdos.podbean.com. That's the best place to find all of our stuff. You can find our YouTube, iTunes, and Facebook links. Join our Facebook group. They Must Be Destroyed on Sight on Facebook. Best place to get in touch with us, find out what's coming up on the podcast. Leave your comments and questions there, all your suggestions, movie requests, and stuff like that. We're trying to fulfill that stuff, movie requests. We're trying to do 2 of those this month. We've already knocked one off. Aguirre was requested. We're hoping to do The Last Wave as well sometime this month and get that one knocked off as well. So, we want more interaction from the people listening because a lot of people do listen to us and we appreciate everyone's support. So,
and a lot more insults.
A lot more. Well, I mean, yeah, you want to tell us to go fuck ourselves.
Please do.
Yeah, well, we'll take that shit.
Mm-hmm.
We'll run with it, and we will fuck ourselves.
Yes. Well, I'm going to do it right after this.
Over and over again.
Oh, Daddy. Oh, Daddy.
Yeah. But until then, thank you very much, Paul, for joining me.
Oh, thank you.
And thank you, everyone, for listening. And we will be back when we are back. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to They Must Be Destroyed on Sight. For past episodes and links to our iTunes, YouTube, and Facebook group, please visit us at tmbdos.podbean.com. There you can also find links to other podcasts and websites of similar interest. If you subscribe to us on iTunes, please consider giving us a 5-star rating and a review. Please join our Facebook group, as it's the single best place to get in contact with the hosts and to know what's coming up on the podcast. Thank you. Drive through.